enough here for a good while. Everything's going very badly from top to bottom throughout the organization. But 1 month still remains on the schedule for better or worse. Today I'm going to try to take a different angle on that month. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins. The Pirates are back in action tonight on the wrong side of the Commonwealth, facing the Phillies. That's a 7:05 p.m. first pitch. 3 games there and then 3 games in Milwaukee. I'll be making the flight over there for that series. Don't ask. Don't ask. You have to book these things in advance, okay? But, I can tell you that I'm not going to go there all, looking for blood or whatever. There's still 5 full weeks of baseball in front of this franchise in 2022. And even if they don't care about the actual outcomes, that might just be a good thing considering the caliber of the schedule they'll be facing the rest of the way. The things that happen underneath do matter. The things that happen individually, the progression as opposed to the endless regression of the individual players, that kind of stuff, that can happen. And you know what? To that end, we are quickly approaching the 1-year anniversary of the firing of Rick Eckstein, which happened on August 30 of 2021. As such, we now have precedent that Ben Cherington can fire a hitting coach with a month left in the regular season. So with overwhelming evidence at his disposal right now, as we're speaking right this very second, to fire Andy Haynes, he can do that, and he can have someone else come in and get their hands on these hitters for a month and then carry that into instructional ball and then the Arizona League and then next year into spring training, and you get the message here. This is a failed hitting coach. That's not mean. That's not personal. That's purely professional. There is a reason that the Brewers made him the only member of their coaching staff who was fired after last season when the Brewers won their division. And that reason, plain and simple, was that the hitters in Milwaukee regressed under Haynes, notably Christian Yelich, who's getting a ton of money up there. Well, that pattern has not been broken. The hitters in Pittsburgh have all regressed under Haynes, including the very best of those hitters, Brian Reynolds, Brian Hayes. And if Haynes was responsible, as the Pirates had insisted that he would be back in the spring, for the entire system and the hitting methodologies utilized up and down the organization, well then, I don't know how much more obvious it can be. This has to come first. And after that, I think there's a chance you could see some real positives in September. This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern. That's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park. Let's get hypothetical here, okay? I mean, not that the firing of Haynes wasn't hypothetical. It obviously was. I don't think that's going to happen at all. However, let's say that it does. And let's say that O'Neal Cruz all of a sudden begins making more regular contact. Let's say that O'Neal Cruz stops flailing with one wrist, not even his whole arm, just his wrist, when lefties throw him virtually anything, but especially sliders. Let's say that Michael Chavis is allowed to gasp, stay in the lineup, and face right-handers. Maybe he'll find a way to make contact under a new hitting coach. Let's say that Jack Suwinski comes back from Indianapolis, and the first thing he does in his first game, which, by the way, really ought to be tonight in Philadelphia, is to hit his 15th home run and continues to lead the majors in home runs and make everyone associated with the franchise, but especially Haynes, look ridiculous for his ever having been sent back down. Yes, he was 0 for 30. Yes, he might well have benefited from it in the short term, but to leave him down there this long? That just tells me you don't have answers in Pittsburgh. You're looking for them at a lower level just by handing him lower level competition. You can't tell me that a kid who hits 14 home runs in 2 months in the majors can't have answers handed to him right here at this level? Come on, man. And for that matter, you might see other kids get called up. Travis Swaggerty's overdue. Ji-Hwan Bai is grossly overdue for how well he's hit in Indianapolis. Cal Mitchell can come back. Diego Castillo can come back. And now, with the presumed new hitting coach in Pittsburgh, they can come up and not instantly regress within a handful of days and then get sent back down to Indianapolis because there are no answers in Pittsburgh. Can you see where I'm headed here? I know there are other issues related to this ball club. I know that the fielding has regressed. I know that some parts of the pitching have regressed is a little too harsh. Pitching has more plateaued than anything else here. I'll give Oscar Marine his due on that front. I really like what I've seen of Mitch Keller, JT Brubaker, and I'm not about to pin anything on David Bednar with his having had a back injury. But the hitting's just a joke. The hitting is some of the worst hitting we've seen in the 136-year history of the Pittsburgh Baseball Club. That's a joke. I can't even come up with an alternative word for joke. It's just a joke. It's all it is. But it doesn't have to be that way. Cherington can do what he did last year. Just, buck up about it. All right, you made a bad hire. Big whoop. Everybody makes bad hires. I run TK Pittsburgh Sports, a small business. I've made bad hires. You admit the mistake, you correct the mistake, you move on. What you don't do is continue wallowing in that mistake or worrying that, oh no, I'm now going to be looked like the guy who can't hire or find a hitting coach. You blew it. Everyone at the time knew you blew it. All they had to do was look at Haynes' track record. Now you've added to that track record. You've seen it right in front of your eyes. You've seen every single hitter on the roster and then down through the organization go backward. That's a real problem. You brought in a hitting coach who can't coach hitting. He's tried to coach these guys to sit there and watch 100 pitches go by. That's why Daniel Vogelbach was the dream acquisition. Most pitches per plate appearance in all of the majors. Great. Wonderful. It works for Vogie. Doesn't work for everybody. Whatever happened to player-centric development? Whatever happened to focusing on what's best for the player? Why are you taking a kid like Sawinski who swings naturally, who's aggressive naturally, and telling him to go up there and watch pitches go by? What about O'Neal Cruz? Swings naturally, aggressive naturally. He goes up to the plate and watches strike 1 and strike 2 go right down the pipe. Everyone's a terrible hitter in an 0-2 count. Yeah, how did I started this positive? Did you hear? You can rewind. I did. I started it positive. When we come back, J1Q. J1Q comes from Thomas, who asks, hey, Dan, shortly after Ben Cherington took over, people were touting the Pirates farm system as a top 5 system in Major League Baseball. My thought was, how could that have happened so soon? Because, as you know, it was in shambles. Was that just a bunch of stupid hype or what? I don't get it. Thomas, your timeline's a little bit off. Nobody was hyping up the Pirates farm system the moment that Ben Cherington showed up. It did happen after about a year or so, and it was more along the lines of 7 or 8, even 9 and 10, depending on which ranking you're citing. And it happened in large part because of the rise of O'Neal Cruz in the system. Cruz, of course, having been acquired by the previous administration. Now, if you want to look at it from probably the more fitting timeline, I think it's a very, very valid question to ask how the Pirates have gone from being as high as 2, 3, or 4 among farm systems as recently a year ago, and now working their way back out of the single digits because of, here's that word again, the big regression. The regression has not been limited to Pittsburgh. Yes, Henry Davis has been hurt. Yes, Nick Gonzalez has been hurt. Yes, there's been at least one prospect who's gotten better in terms of hitting, and that's Endy Rodriguez, to his inestimable credit. What a terrific young dude this is, too. But where we sit right now, when looking at this picture, the Pirates have one player in Baseball America's top 50. That's Termarr Johnson, who literally hasn't taken a professional at bat yet. Johnson having been the number 4 overall pick in the draft and not having yet been affected in one direction or the other by the Pirates' development system. But here's the thing that gets me, and yes, it's easy and obvious, really elementary, if you think about it, to look at just the very top prospects and say, okay, they've dropped off a bit, or they've been hurt, or both. And then you can lump in Quinn Priester into that as well. And your system's going to take a hit because those are the guys that are expected and the only guys that are expected to make it to the majors. The rest are still seen as uncertain. So when those guys take a hit, your system takes a hit. But I feel very comfortable asking, where's the Pirates version of Michael Harris 2? The 21-year-old kid with the Braves who was a third-round pick just 3 years ago. Where is that prospect? Where's the stunning surprise prospect who just comes out of nowhere and starts doing big things? I swear, as long as I've been alive and followed this franchise, even in the darkest years, there were always prospects like that, at least 1 or 2, where you'd say, whoa, who's this Steve Pearce who's hitting all these home runs, or whoever. I'm asking you here, who is that prospect in 2022? I'll reiterate and give proper credit for Endy Rodriguez, but I can't go any further than that. I can't cite another player who's gotten better in the minors. And with all due tips of the cap to the younger outfielders who in Indianapolis will occasionally hit well, they're not children. They're not 21, 22 years old. And I'll repeat that when they do come to Pittsburgh, they instantly regress, whether that's because of this hitting coach or whatever, and then they go right back. That's also reflective of your system, because when a Cal Mitchell comes up and then goes back because it didn't work out, or a Travis Swaggerty, he's a first-round pick, comes up and then goes back because it didn't work out, that's another knock on your prospect status. I did tell you I'd try today, didn't I? I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have been anywhere near that disingenuous when I absolutely knew better. This isn't good. This isn't a good situation. It's not what 2019 was. 2019 was the amalgam of a dozen years worth of screwing up. 2019 was Neil Huntington and Kyle Stark having held a disjointed stranglehold over the organization for way, way, way too long. It was a dozen years of Frank Coonley thinking he knew baseball when he didn't and getting involved way too often. All of that, and all of that needed to go. And it did, and it was absolutely the right move by Bob Nutting, even though it practically took him getting shoved off the edge of a cliff to make that move. This isn't that. I don't ever mean to approximate it to that. I think Cherington's made a couple of key bad hirings, and he's paid the price for that. The whole organization's paid the price for that this year. He can fix that. He can even fix it on the 1-year anniversary. of Eckstein getting fired? I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. And next time we go at this, I'll be in Milwaukee.